I am just sitting here, and I hope that you, back wherever you are, in your homes, in your local pub, or maybe having watched the recording or watching our highlights program tonight, can just join us in soaking up the atmosphere and marvel at the athletic endeavour of these riders who are racing for one of the most coveted awards in any sporting event, the yellow jersey. This is the 88th Tour de France, and it's being fought out this year. There has not been 1 day's respite all the way through. And here, the man who won the Tour of Italy 2 years ago, Garzelli, desperately trying to hang on in contention. Up in front of these star riders, Laurent Jalabert, a great man with a tremendous list of successes over the years. 149 races he's won. 4 days in the yellow jersey, twice in 1995, twice in the year 2000. Take the green jersey as well in the Tour de France in 1992 and 1995. He has set a cracking pace all the way through this race. He's led, having dropped his previous 8 breakaway companions to trying to ride on to get the stage. But the rest of these riders here, slowly but surely pulling him back. He's had to do so much on his own. But Sean, at this particular point, although they've got company, surely this is man against mountain. There's no way you can get some, I suppose, I'll say assistance, but you can get some morale by riding with other people. But really, it's just you and the mountains, eh?
Which is chasing now the group of Ulrich Armstrong.
So Vurikhov's got straight back, hasn't he?
Yes, and Livingston is also coming back. But you know, they did a lot of the work, and I'm surprising that he did not keep a teammate with him for some time, because if you have some mechanical problem, well, at least you have somebody there. But I think they were suffering quite a lot, Livingston and Vinokurov.
All day long, even before we came on air, this great battling Frenchman, Laurent Jalabert, has been going for the King of the Mountains competition. By my counts, and back in Paris, it looks like he's got the polka dot jersey. Mike Smith with another 30 in the back. I'm getting sort of carried away down here. Who said you should carry me away and throw me off the edge of the cliff? But what's it looking like now, points-wise, compared with Rooks?
Well, according to me, Laurent Jalabert now has 211 points. Now, Rooks had 195 before the last climb on the Col du Périssord. He would have had to be in the first half dozen to hold off Jalabert's mounting points total. And whilst my computer hasn't come up with all of the top 6 on the Périssord, even though we're now just coming up to the higher slopes on the Col de Valour-en-Azé, I'm positive he wasn't in the first 5 or 6 on that climb, which means that he will have lost the jersey. One thing the computer has said, without giving us the full result, it does actually briefly say at one point, Jalabert now leader in King of the Mountain. So, assuming that statement is correct on my computer, it says it all.
I think so too, Mike, because he's only got 1 kilometre to go, and he can probably walk up this bit now with because Rooks so far down. Not that he'll do just that, and he'll get another 30 points to the top of this one, so that will take him over to 241, if my arithmetic again is correct. I'll take my socks and shoes off now to count up to that. I'll make it 241, so he'll get that. He's had a stage victory in the Tour de France this year, going in on the day of the Bastille Day. He's now going into polka dot jersey, and so it looks to me like Rooks is out of the contention for that jersey. Does that stack up with your point score too?
Yes, it does indeed. And isn't it, sorry, David, I'm just enjoying all these Basques up here supporting the Euskaltel boys in the orange. They're not Dutch people, these. They are the Basques who've come here to support the boys in orange, the Euskaltel riders. They're cheering Jalabert nonetheless. That's fair play, I suppose.
You did the commentary on the Tour of Catalonia, didn't you, about a week before this one started? And the Basques, for the Euskaltel team, they seem to be popping up all over the place this year since we started our coverage on Eurosport, eh?
Yes, that's where I was first impressed with people like Lyseca and others from the team. I thought they all rode well. Lopez de Munain used it as a warm-up race. So did the Echevarrias, non-related, David and Unai. They all rode well, but I have to remind you that the man who really finished top of the pile was very, very impressive, and that was Belocchi.
Well, Block is in this race, and he transferred across from his team to the Onse team this year. 1 kilometre to go for a lot of money. Here are the orange jerseys. I was so pleased this year, and I'm sure many other people were too, that the Escatel team managed to get into the Tour de France. They've been going now for maybe about 5 or 6 years, and it's quite interesting how they got established. They represent the Basque country, and in fact, although they've got a Venezuelan riding for them this year in the race, when they first started out, they were only Basque riders, and although they got them down as Spain on all of the names against all the names, the one odd one on our start list here is Echeverria, who's from Venezuela. Now, David Echeverria, Spanish rider, is of the same name as Echeverria from the Venezuelans, so I think that Echeverria from Venezuela has got to have Basque links. And if you see some unpronounceable words written on the road, or banners with lots of X's and double X's and goodness knows what else in there, then those are the lads and ladies from the Basque country. They look upon themselves as an individual state, and unfortunately some of the hotheads are inclined to go and blow things up from time to time, but they love their cycling. And when the Euskadi team started, first of all, it was funded by a group of businessmen. I think about half a dozen of them put up money for a very small team in terms of money being spent, but they built it up from then. About 4 or 5 years now, I have to dive back into my computer here, which is a pilot case full of masses of papers, to try and put you in the picture. But just look at those orange jerseys as the Basque nation celebrates the Tour de France, coming close to the border, and their men in here at the moment really giving him something to cheer about. Lawrence Jalabert is waving to some of his friends too. Look, he's so pleased with this one. Again, the Spanish love this chap, and he's just got such a big support in Spain and in France too. I should think of all, when we got to the Champs-Elysees, there'll be a big roar of applause for the person that gets the yellow jersey. There'll be a big roar of applause for the green points jersey, who I said he, not supposed to be biased, hopes that it's going to be O'Grady. My friend alongside me will probably say it's going to be Zabel, so Klaus Angerman has his point of view, I have mine. And all those jerseys will be there riding up and down the Champs-Elysees. But if this rider on your screen now manages to get to the finish in Paris wearing the polka dot jersey, I will guarantee to you now he will get a bigger round of applause than anybody else in the race. He's loved by everybody. He's got a tremendous following. He's a great battler. He didn't need to come back from that problem he had with his back early on this season. He could say, enough's enough, I won't go through the pain of getting back into action like I did when I smashed my face into the tarmac after that crash in Armstrong in the sprint, when a policeman stepped out to take a photograph of the bunch hurtling towards him at 40 miles an hour, and he decked about 4 or 5 riders, including Laurent Jalabert, who had his complete front of his face smashed against the tarmac. He had to be fed through a straw for about 6 weeks. They had to then rebuild his face, and he's out there at the front at the moment, and here he is then, and the crowd just cheering on. Just savour this moment of Laurent Jalabert on his way to what undoubtedly will give him the polka dot jersey this year, and perhaps on this form he might be able to keep it tomorrow too. But Sean, as he comes up towards the top now, we'll just shut off and hear the crowd, they go to the top, and then we'll talk about tomorrow's chance of him keeping the jersey. By the way, he's playing with his brake for some reason. Is he going to tighten it, or do we think he loosed it on the climb?
Yes, he certainly did. We see him much earlier on. He loosened his brake. It must have been, a bit too tight, and when you get out of the saddle, sometimes it can touch. So he just opened it up, but for the descent, he's closing it again, of course. For the very fast descent. But the interesting thing here with this group of Ulrich, Armstrong, Belocchi, Botero, Kivalev, Heras has come back, so Armstrong has got a teammate once again. We see him going back to the car. They're looking for some bottles, some fresh drinks for certainly for Armstrong.
Well, they are then the group reforming behind our leader on the climb. And if you just switched on, the reason that Ulrich looks like he's gone in a ditch, he did just that. He rode off on a corner straight, fortunately missing an Armco barrier. That's certainly going to be one we're repeating, I'm sure. I'll look back at the race, because if he'd hit the Armco barrier, he could have broken not only his bike but some bones too as well. So he's fought his way back in there. Armstrong waiting for him a bit. It is regrouping steadily here, and that's given Jalabert a chance to go over the top, get another 30 points, guaranteeing that he'll take the polka dot jersey at the end of the stage. Good ride too by Garzelli, who hasn't given up, and he's been on his own most of the time up the climb here. That must be a very tough old way to try and get the top of the mountain when there's such big hitters in front, Sean.
Yes, well, he started out much later than the breakaway of that 9 men. He started another group of 5 guys. He was with Moncuti, Botero, Montgomery and Leseca, and he steadily went through all of those riders, and they have been caught by the group of Armstrong and Ulrich, and he's still forging ahead, but he has only about, I'd say, 15 or 20 second advantage over Ulrich, and as we see now, he's 2 minutes down almost at the moment, so he's losing time. Of course, this group is catching up on him quite quickly.
Well, the gap then is coming down, and interesting, it seems that Ulrich is Garzelli now, who's up there. 150 is the gap coming through, but interesting to see that Ulrich is much more flexible in his riding, eh?
Yes, he seems to be using a bit of a lower gear, but it's probably early yet. It's really on the final climbs we see him. He puts a higher gear, and he seems to be pedaling a bit better today.
Well, we'll probably get the statistic later on. We're going to Plat Dade, Saint-Laury-Salon. When they go to the top of this one, the gap you can see between lead Laurent Jalabert and this group here with Garzelli wedged in between. We wish Garzelli luck as well, because the Mappe team haven't had much out of it. 21 teams came in to the race this year. When we started out, we've got 1 week to go. As at tomorrow, 1 day off on Monday, but some teams have not got much to show for it, and Garzelli has to do something here for the Mappe team, who had more than their fair share of crashes. Nardello crashed in the end. Their specialist sprinters, Zanini and Steels, had to go home. So when you go into the race, Sean, certain teams have aspirations for certain sections, and then when the disappointment comes after that, then surely, like Garzelli's doing, he must give some encouragement to the Mappe supporters.
Yes, well, you have the good years and bad years, and sometimes it goes, you have a good year for some reason, you do exactly the same for the following year, and you're hoping to be the same shape and to win the same races, but it just doesn't happen for some reason. The years go by, but they don't follow each other in the same way.
Jalabert, Garzelli, Ulrich, there's the points at the top of the penultimate climb of the day, the Col de Val Laurent Azet. On his way down, Laurent Jalabert throwing course. Whoops, he skidded down again. He's done it. He's come off the top of this mountain like a dose of salt off the proverbial off the shovel. We've seen him twice, really nearly going off the road. Again, he slammed the brakes on, and he's just going down here like a man possessed. He's known as being one of the best descenders. If you are of nervous disposition, or your grandmother's watching, I suggest you turn her face to the wall. This is going to be one of those descents where you'll be wondering just how on earth they stay upright, because you can't practice on these descents, Sean, can you? Just go down there, and how do you know what's going around the corner? And there may be a bit of water off the side of the mountain, something like this. This is just crazy time, eh?
Yes, well, you never know. Even if you come out to get to know some of the mountains, you can never remember all these corners, because there's so many of them on the way down. And we see Jalabert, he's pushing there to the limit on the descent, and there's times you come around a corner and there's some water running across the road. Other times maybe there's a little bit of gravel, and or maybe the tar's a bit melted, so you have to cut your speed down a bit, and if you go too much on the brakes, your back wheel can start to skeet a bit, and you lose your line, and it's a bit of a panic moment, but you get over that pretty quickly.
Well, it's going to be a race within a race. King of the Mountains, yellow jersey, Mike Smith, I think we've got a question coming up here.
Oh, well, actually, this is
they changed it.
Almost the daily one now. Everybody else based on Lance Armstrong. We've been following this more or less through the tour. Still Simon and Kivilev, of course. Simon still with that massive advantage as a result of that break in the pouring rain a week ago. But behind Armstrong now, all the big favourites are at some considerable distance. Belocchi, last year's podium placed man in third place last year, over 4 minutes. Jan Ullrich, his big rival, who's been putting on such a brave effort today despite that fall into the ditch. Jan Ullrich over 4 minutes behind. Oscar Sevilla, cracking young prospect that lad is, in the under 25 competition. He's leading that section, but even he's 7 minutes adrift. Botero, last year's king of the mountains, almost 10, all the rest in double figures. So Armstrong still has Kivilev to get rid of, and remember, Kivilev is still with him in that little lead group as they head towards the final climb towards the finish. And Simon, he's drifted off a little bit. The question will be, as far as Simon is concerned, can he hang on to that yellow jersey for yet one more day?
Well, Sean, Simon, can he hang it on one more day? You can see how it's sort of coming up before your very eyes now. And again, the family must be right behind him, but what's his chance? I mean, Simon, a great background. How many brothers did he have now? And I think one of them got the yellow jersey.
Yes, well, he had 3 brothers who were professional. He's the 4th one. The family behind you, yes, it gives you support, but it doesn't get you up the mountains. And I think we're going to see a change with a change of yellow jersey. I think Kivilev, he can take it. He seems to be in that group of Ulrich Armstrong very well, and he seems to be following it. So we held that 8:41, 8:42. So he's losing time rapidly. I think he's going to lose his jersey today.
But the man going for a jersey today is on your screen right now then, as Jalabert pressing down, and we've been asking you to take part with a question, Mike.
Well, do you agree with Sean Kelly? Sean, you're the expert. You rode enough of these tours to know what you're talking about, but I wonder if all those out there watching our race today agree with you. The daily question today, it is, can Francois Simon hold on to his yellow jersey today? Yes or no? Eurosport.com, and I'll bring you the answer, your answers, in our later roundup, which immediately follows the finish of the live broadcast.
Just under 14 k's to go, Mike. Just let our viewers know, because we should be going, perhaps it's difficult to do, because we'll probably have this live bit going into your highlights program later on, so say what the hell they're talking about, because we're watching this sometime in night. Just run down on what's happening this evening, because we're now getting a tremendous number of people who are switching on to British Eurosport following the fact there's no more terrestrial coverage in Great Britain. What's going on this evening, in case somebody might have missed what's happened this morning? When are you back on air, and what's going to take us through the evening?
Okay, David, well, as you know, of course, but if in case there's anybody just tuning in, we bring you live coverage every day. We don't miss anything, of course, right up to the finish of each stage. And then when our on-site commentators, David and Sean, have wrapped up, they hand back to me. I go through it again, because at that time of the afternoon there's people coming home from work, or if it's a weekend, they've come home from doing the shopping or whatever, and they may have missed the live, so we give them a brief wrap then. And then, of course, there's our usual highlights program every night. Most nights, I stress, there are 1 or 2 alterations. Stay tuned, we'll keep you posted. Most nights it's at 10 o'clock Central European time, which of course is 9 o'clock on British Eurosport anywhere in the UK.
Is tonight Saturday most nights? Is it the same?
Saturday most nights, yes, we are on at that particular time tonight. The usual time, 10 o'clock CET, 9 o'clock in the UK. And thanks, David, for giving me the opportunity to give it a plug.
Well, and if this, by the way, is going out at 10 o'clock tonight, our apologies, but at least you know what's going to happen tomorrow. So they cut and shot this programme. We never know when we start, when it's going to be out there on a few people back at home. So sometimes if it gets a bit cut and you say they just said that, well, it's because they've maybe taken out 10, 20 minutes, half an hour or something of the race happened so far. So let me just give you a resume of the situation coming into this morning, and then what has happened in rough terms since then. We started the stage today. Yesterday, Cardenas won the stage, and in the yellow jersey this morning was Simon. In the green jersey for the points, O'Grady, the leader of the Kingdom. Oh, he's just come down, Jalabert. He's now taken the jersey. He's been taking risks too on the way down. He's taken the yellow jersey off Roots, who started this morning in the polka dot jersey. Let's watch him go round here again. Well, wow, there's some dust on the side. How would you rate that, Sean?
Yes, gravel, certainly on the corners. There's certainly some loose gravel, and that is the problem when you're really pushing it, as Jalabert is doing on all of this descent. you come to a corner and you're on the gravel before you know it, and sometimes you can get around. We see Jalabert early, actually he was on the gravel here and he was on the chamfer of the road, so there was no way he was going to get away with it. We see him earlier on also, he was in a panic for a moment. He blocked his back wheel because he had to slow down quickly because there was gravel about, and when you're on the limit, this happens so quickly.
Well, an amazing piece of bike riding. He bounced back up, got on his bike again. Saint-Lary-Soulan. This is the town all fit for the Tour de France, and a French rider is leading now. And ahead of him to the right-hand side, he goes up this thumping great climb to the top of the mountain, where this massive crowd at the top of the Saint-Lary-Soulan will be there to welcome this man after a 10-kilometre climb. Well, he's throwing caution to the wind, is Laurent Jalabert. Just saw him come down on that grit. Sean, the apex of the corner, your words of wisdom, it's easy to look back at what he did there, but it always struck me that's a bit of a dangerous place to go, isn't it? He's all right here chopping it, but sometimes, not so much in the Pyrenees, but on some of the Alps, there seems to be a bigger slope in the corner and you swing around the outside. But was he just losing concentration, or was he just going eyeballs out?
No, he's just going, he's giving it everything on the descent. We see him on many of the corners, like he's really on the limit, and you cannot see the corner in time to know what way, if you keep out a bit on the corner, if you cut it tight, and naturally you come in wide to the corner and you take it tight. That's the way you always do it. And Jalabert, unfortunately, it was one of the last corners. I think it was the last corner before he got on the level here. So just unlucky really when you're pushing on the limit. It can happen.
You saw briefly on your screen there that the gap is 3 minutes between Laurent Jalabert and the group containing Ulrich. Further back is the yellow jersey of Simon. Well, he won't take the yellow jersey, but the way he's going now, he looks like he could well go in to get that King of the Mountains points jersey. He's got enough now, but he has to stay upright. Shouldn't be any problem for him staying upright on the climb, Sean, but we've seen enough drama with this man. We even saw him on Shipper's Chain. We may see it again just shortly now, but these must be heart-stopping moments. This man has been riding out. Where did he go away? Was it 24 Ks or for the start?
Yes, he went away very, very early in the stage. I see. It's a long time ago. He had 148 kilometres, so he's away from most of the stage, and the crash didn't help things, because he's still hanging there with 3 minutes over Ulrich, so he has quite a nice advantage, and of course the crash took 35 seconds from him. We also see him there when he came onto the climb. He was changing from his outside chaining, his bigger chaining, onto the small one. He lost his chain for a second, but luckily he got it back on without having to come off the bike.
Soak up the atmosphere as this crowd has been working its way up this climb since yesterday. They're here today in the glorious sunshine and glorious countryside. Down the bottom, there's mile after mile of cars parked. There are mile after mile of tents. These people have come here to watch the Tour de France, and they're watching a Frenchman riding up into the polka dot jersey, a man who, believe it or not, has taken the green points jersey on the Champs-Élysées as the winner on the points competition. Laurent Jalabert is one of those do-or-die type riders, and he's trying to get the stage victory, but also he could ride into polka dot jersey and join some great names as Miller, Heller, Van Impe, Tunisa, and in more recent years, Veronk, Rinero and Botero, in wearing that polka dot jersey in Paris. And we're watching it all today on Eurosport as one of the confidence riders in red, white, blue is dropping off the pace. Moncuti and Kivalev were there, and if you just can pick out his number 77, Moncuti, that's him dropping off for France, but Kivalev is still there, and Kivalev might, if you see there in red, white and blue, just behind Ulrich, might be riding in to the yellow jersey as the riders from the US Postal put the pressure on Ulrich.
Now then,
Mike.
David, we've finished in Saint-Lary-Soulan a number of occasions, 7 times over the years. here's some of the winners of this particular finish. Remember Zenon Yaskula, 1993. He finished on the podium that year, didn't he? He was third place overall at the end of it all. Beat Brou for Switzerland was first on this stage in 82. The inevitable Lucien van Impe's name turns up twice, in 81 and 1976. Joep Zoetemelk, of course, in 75. And Poupou, Raymond Poulidor, he won a stage up here in 1974. And I'd like to ask Sean at this point, Sean, if you can put your head on the block. Laurent Jalabert began this climb, Sean, with 3 minutes in hand. It's asking a lot of him. What are his chances of a famous stage victory?
Well, I think his chances are very, very poor, because we see the US Postals setting the pace. We see Ribeiro and Heras, of course, they seem to be setting a very, very fast pace. If we had a group of riders who, are just looking at each other, nobody wants really set a pace, well then there might be some possibility of getting the finish, but I don't see that happening here.
Sean, the great number of pink jerseys here from the Once squad, they seem to have been a bit splattered over the mountains, not only today but yesterday. I mean, not seeing a great deal of them, but they seem to be coming back now. And their team manager, on the sides, do you think he's been keeping them lying doggo for a bit until now? Because suddenly they're coming up here in great numbers, aren't they, eh?
Well, I think the terrain here suits those guys, and they're definitely shown today. But they have when we see the real pressure on when there was an attack by Ulrich, and then they got left behind, but they've come back now, and they've quite a few of Ulrich's guys have come back as well. Livingstone have come back, and Guarini has also come back to the group. So there was a group of about 6 or 8 riders who joined the group of Ulrich Armstrong.
We're talking about riders, we're describing the colours and who they are, and for some of you out there who don't know a lot about cycle racing, you must say, well, who's he and what's that? This is Kivilev, number 74 on his screen at the moment, the Kazakhstan rider, riding for Cofidis, the same team as David Mill. Up here is the is the American back team, US Postal. On the right hand side is the champion of Germany, Jan Ulrich, and the battle going on here, the pinky coloured jerseys, the other one, the lighter pink colours, are the Once team. It is in Spain. ONCE is the dots actually. It's Once. It's a team sponsored by a charity which is for the blind. It's a lottery, and wherever you go in Spain you can buy the tickets in the lottery. It's rather like back at Britain when you turn up to buy your tickets in the lottery, and it goes to a central fund where people win so much money, and from that also a percentage is put into sport, into art, and into works of good art. So in fact the Once team is a very interesting squad as well. The Telecom team is what it says, a team sponsored by the big Telecom team in Germany. US Postal, probably one of the biggest post office operations in the world. Is here the Euskaltel team in the orange jersey. That again is a Telecom team, but from the Basque country. You get a great mixture of sponsors, a great mixture of nations as they're riding up toward the top. We've got Spaniards, we've got Germans, we've got Americans, we've got riders from the Basque country as well. Just soak in the atmosphere of this stage of the Tour de France. It's the 30th stage. It will be lucky though, I think. Good luck for this man, Laurent Jalabert. For the polka dot jersey, but can he win the stage? Seven kilometres to go. Certainly the man of the match today looks like he's going to take the Combativity Award, that red number, to stick on his back tomorrow on the polka dot jersey as the king of the mountains. Can he stay out there and get the stage? Can Simon hang on and keep the yellow jersey? Can Kivilev take it off him? Can Ulrich and Armstrong go head to head and sort out who will go for the yellow jersey in Paris 1 week this Sunday? Belocchi drifting off the pace, 3rd overall last year, in all sorts of trouble. Jerez here on the right hand side of the screen, winner last year on the Tour of Spain, setting the pace for Armstrong at the centre of your screen. And now on the right hand side, Jan Ulrich, who had a phenomenal crash further down the road, has recovered, but can he power his way past Lance Armstrong? Sean, your overview of the situation at the moment.
Well, Heras is setting a very, very fast pace, and we see that this group just blew apart, but lucky he's losing contact, and we see him. He was quite active in the previous climb, so it proves that he's riding well. But Hera seems to be putting on a lot of pressure, and he's just blown this group to pieces. And I think they will be pulling in Jalabert very, very quickly now, because he's naturally he's going to be getting tired after being out there all day. What a ride he's done, but unfortunately when you have a group like that behind, and some teams set the pace like Harris is doing, well, it's impossible for Jalabert to make it to the finish.
Spare a thought also for the man in the green jersey, Stuart O'Grady, the battling Aussie from the Credit Agricole team, got blown out, must have been 40-50 kilometres ago, and it's almost the same time Eric Zabel, who's won 5 green jerseys into the finish on the Champs-Élysées of the Tour de France, also went out the back. They're going to try and survive today to stay inside the time limit. Also for a young rider who's doing quite well, he wasn't too far off the back further down the road, Oscar Sevilla leading on the white jersey for Nestle Adequado. The overall team, Credit Agricole, I think, will be under pressure today to keep that lead in the team competition. We're watching the head-to-head now between Armstrong and Ulrich. Ulrich on the ascent side, looked across to Armstrong. Garzelli is wedged in between Jalabert and the Armstrong group. Good ride by Garzelli, winner of the Tour of Italy last year. So he's getting a great ride at the moment, but the television is concentrating upon these groups of riders. This one on his own, Jalabert, and the group behind containing Armstrong and Ulrich. Well, Sean, you and I drove up here early on this morning. It was carnival atmosphere, party time too. Just how would Jalabert feel now riding through this mass of spectators?
Well, he's giving it everything here, and it's very, very warm, and the day is very, very warm. But also there's so many people on the climb. They've been on since we seen this morning. They were going up there at 8 o'clock. So, and then the vehicles that's going up here as well, the motorbikes and everything, the heat off of those. It gets so warm in the climbs, and there's no air whatsoever. But Jalabert is definitely, he's really suffering. But you just concentrate on what's in front of you, just keep on giving it 100%, and that's all you can do.
It's like riding in a brick oven too, isn't it? Because here the sun's been hitting the slopes there with the rocks on it. Even this morning you could sense the atmosphere. Here the people half naked, and they're up there. They take it easy to get up there, but the air is very thin too. It's hot and it's thin, eh?
Yes. Well, there's very little oxygen there, and it's very, very hard to breathe. But you just concentrate on what you're doing. Just keep on working on it at 100%, and just it's suffer all the way. From when you get to a last climb like this, and it gets so close. Going to make it or not. Well, then you just keep on working at 100%, and hopefully that you can hang on in there. And we see Garzelli now. He's been pulled in by the group of Harris, Armstrong, and Ulrich.
What makes you keep going, Sean? Many people must know, all these riders must be, I won't say in oblivion, but this is a hard way to earn a living?
Yes, it's a very hard way, and some guys, I suppose that's what makes great champions, the ones who can really just dig in there and really go deep, and work at it 100%, and when the going gets tough, and just keep on working at it, keep on plugging at it. That's what makes the champions from the men. And
Laurent Jalabert, a great grand champion over the years, idol of so many of the French public, really looks like he's at the bottom of the barrel. There doesn't seem much left at the moment, Sean, eh?
No, certainly not. And you just hope behind that there's a little bit of rivalry between the other favourites, and nobody really wants to do the work behind to pull you back at 100%. But unfortunately, Armstrong, he's got Harris with him, and he's setting a pace, and that's definitely not suiting Jalabert's position at all.
Well, Block has been dropped now by some 10 seconds from this group here. Harris on the left, Armstrong in the centre, Ulrich on the right hand side, and Garzelli then they pulled him in, reeled him in like a fisherman then, playing with the salmon, got you on the end of the hook, and then he's taken off the hook and thrown it into the catch net, and that's it. These chaps are going away again, looking to, and now 8:20 to the main group is the call back, so it looks to me like Simon's day in yellow could well be over, and Kovalev might just scrape in to take that yellow jersey too. And he's attacking Ulrich despite the problems he had so far. His team have been supporting him, and it's now Ulrich versus Armstrong live on Eurosport this Saturday afternoon. Hang on to your hats.
Certainly Ulrich is he's very, very active today. We've seen him attacking on the Peresod, and then he crashed on the descent, of course, and now he gave a sudden acceleration there. We haven't seen him really doing that. We've seen him setting a very fast pace on the other days, but attacking like this we haven't seen him, so he must be on a good day, and the feeling must be good.
So the group for Armstrong 1:13 to Jalabert as we go toward the top of this final climb of the stage from Foix to Saint-Lary-Soulon, 194 kilometres in the baking hot sunshine here in the Pyrenees. Who's going to win? Who's going to take the yellow jersey? Sean, Ulrich tried everything. His teammates on the front, they drove hard, they got rid of most of Jalabert's team. He then on the descent, Ulrich tried to get away, fell off in a very bad way, down into the bushes he went, got back on his bike now. He's not giving up at all, but Armstrong seems to be just watching. How do you rate it still?
Yes, well, Armstrong seems to be able to follow Ulrich without any major problems. When Ulrich, he gave his attack there, Armstrong was onto his wheel immediately, so Armstrong seems to be very, very comfortable, but you never know, with a guy how good he is, because he can give you that impression, but he might be suffering. And we see Simon here. Actually, Simon has got 2 minutes to hold on to his jersey, so he has to make a very good last climb up here, and I don't think it's going to be possible today. Kovalev is the man who we see losing contact earlier on, and he's got to limit his losses to Armstrong if he's going to take this jersey.
Jalabert is probably coming up to the 5 kilometres to go. The gap is now no more than 1 minute and 10 seconds. He can look back down this zigzag climb. You can see in the distance there where he's still got to go, possibly to win the stage. In fact, he's now down to 50 seconds for Laurent Jalabert. Interesting enough, our camera's going down there. It's his very special wheels he's riding now, and they are the ADA wheels, which cost a fortune. In fact, you can buy 2 bikes the amount they have to pay for some of those, but they certainly enable him to get so far up in front. Jalabert, he'll get the polka dot jersey. Will he get the stage? And what will happen to these two here at the moment? Now, Armstrong's got on the front. What's that, Sean? Is that a sort of confident move which says, because normally you wouldn't want to do that, would you, in case you got flicked and overtaken by the man behind you?
Well, sometimes it's the way to do it, because when you start riding, well then Ulrich is going to say, well, he still feels good if he's going to ride on the front. So it could be a tactic, that he's doing, but I think Armstrong is, still feeling quite good. He didn't give any signs that he was weak nor he had any problems. So I reckon he's just he's going to do some of the work with Ulrich, but I can't see.
He's gone.
Yes, he's just.
Armstrong has just put it into another gear. He didn't do it. He just sort of said, "Okay, I'm off," and he's gone. The difference is amazing.
Yes, Armstrong is. It's just amazing. Like he's on really a different planet, because when he just turns it on in the real hard sections on the climb, when the chips are really down, Ulrich is not able to match him with the sudden burst of speed that Armstrong can produce. Ulrich just cannot match that.
Dear spectator back at home, wherever you are, Sean Kelly has just made one of those statements that would go down in the history of commentators. Whoopies! He just said Armstrong is on a different planet, and we all know that Armstrong landed on the moon, and so Sean, you just created for the viewers back at home one of those special things that commentators do, completely by accident. Sean Kelly has said Armstrong is on a different planet. Certainly is, right here, but not up there in the moon, here in the glorious sunshine in the Pyrenees. He's going up and up and up, as the other Armstrong did, up onto the moon, and people say, well, they're over the moon, and my goodness, the way he's going right now, he's just taking the whole lot. Up he goes here. He's going to catch Jalabert, I think, right now. Disappointment, but let's see what happens when he goes past. Hopefully our cameras stay with this. 2 great grand champions, and look at this, he looks across to him.
he's going to take him in the wheel.
Little nod. Well, Armstrong has had a lot of stick from the French papers. Some of the spectators, I was sorry to hear the way in which they booed him at the prologue time trial in Dunkirk. But Armstrong has shown throughout this race now, and this is the 13th stage of the Tour de France. It's unlucky virtually from everybody else that they've come up against a super fit, a superman, Lance Armstrong, who's coming up this mountain, destroying all the aims and ambitions of this man Jan Ullrich, who has been so long in second spot. He got beaten by Armstrong last year. He got beaten by Pantani in 1999. He got beaten by Rees in 1996. He did win it in 1997, but now Ullrich knows he has to go back to the drawing board, because look at the two different styles, a contrasting way in which they're riding this stage 13 of the Tour de France. You're being treated to, we're being treated to, the spectator being treated to a fantastic bike race here live on Eurosport. Thanks for joining us, and I know we're getting a bigger and bigger audience, and I was talking to one of my friends, Jeremy Whittle, for the time. He said they're having more and more hits on the website as well. This sport has been now growing and growing, and look at the way in which Armstrong from America here, when we get to the Champs-Elysees, barring accident, and he'll be there. We saw so many stars and stripes last year. We could see the whole of the place decorated yet again. Well, Jalabert tried to stay with him, he couldn't, and now Ullrich is coming up to him too. But you have to applaud the performance of undoubtedly the man who's going to be the darling of the French spectators tonight, Laurent Jalabert. Sean, you know him. You've got similar backgrounds. He got the green jersey in the Tour de France just once to your, 4 times now. Also a great classic winner. You have to say, bad luck to him so close to the finish, but he's still got that look on his face that he's going to go on and go on, and he's going to take that polka dot jersey. Chapeau. How do you feel?
Yes, well, not only for the mountain jersey, but for what he's done in this tour. You know, he's come back from so many accidents. And the beginning of this year, the accident when he fell from a ladder in his house, missed all the beginning of season, and nobody would have expected him to perform like he's done in this tour. And the way he's done up to now, and today's ride, like, is a fabulous ride, to take the jersey, and he's going to hang in there to try and get some points on the top of this climb.
Jalabert now being caught by Armstrong, being caught by Ullrich, dropping off the front. So we're going to see the 1 and 2 in the Tour de France last year. Looked like they're coming up towards the top of this climb in a position which they finished last year overall, and it could be the same again this year, the way they're going. We talked about Jalabert coming back from that accident on the ladder in February this year. We talked also about how Jalabert, who'll take the polka dot jersey, came back from that crash when he slammed his face against the tarmac in Armentières, when there was an enormous crash which put him for 6 weeks drinking liquid through a straw to provide the food to his body, and then had to have his face rebuilt. He fought his way back. But just think about this man, Armstrong, who became one of the youngest world champions in Oslo. Went on to take a stage in the Tour de France into Verdun some years ago. Had to ride in the days with the Motorola team when Casatelli, his teammate, crashed and died, the Olympic champion. He went on to win a stage later in the Tour de France that year, did Lance Armstrong, and dedicated that success to his teammate. You're seeing grand champions here on the screen, fighting their way back. And Sean, you've been through many accidents. These riders here, they don't have to keep racing. Look at Lance Armstrong, went through that testicular cancer. He could have retired from the sport. When Jalabert crashed over this season, he could have said, I've been racing all this time, it's too hard to get. What drives these riders?
Well, it's always difficult to come out, and if you know you feel you can still perform at a top level, you can win some of these races. well, then you want to continue. And those guys, they have quite a good feeling. They have quite an idea that they're going to perform well. Jalabert, I presume, he reckoned he could win some more races. Maybe not as good as he's done in this tour, but it's also the love for the thing. I think he enjoyed the sport, although it's such a hard sport. You still enjoy it when you're out there, when you're up competing, like Jalabert and like the Armstrongs are doing today, like especially like Jalabert. So you just want to continue on doing it, and it's not really the financial gain. It's just the palmarès you want to put up there for yourself. You just want to keep going on as long as you feel it's possible to still produce those results.
Well, further back down the course are riders who are going through hell and high water, although there's not much high water on the top of this mountain except when the sun melts the snow that comes down at the top of the mountain here. And there's a great big blow-up bear at the moment. Well, many years ago they had bears going across and roaming over the tops of the Pyrenees, but the man down there, the bear who's hugged a few people and then squeezed them till they popped a cork, has been Lance Armstrong coming up here. We'll see him on the rostrum later on at the top of this great climb, very classic climb indeed. And I was interested to see that the part of the little logo which is up on the presentation podium had there a great St. Bernard's dog up there at the top too. It was went out complete with the brandy to help and search for people buried in the snow. Well, I think at the end of this one I certainly will dive into the... No, we haven't got any brandy up here. We just have to take a big cold drink of water to celebrate the way in which this American is romping up this climb. He makes it look so easy. Sean, if the team managers will be watching this one on their screens back in their cars, surely how do they feel? I mean, what would you do now? You go back to the drawing board for plan B?
Well, I don't think there is any more plans. If you look at today, Ulrich and the Telecom guys, they rode very well. The tactic was very, very good. They made it very hard. They eliminated a lot of the US Postal guys, or they did come back later. Ulrich himself, he attacked, and that's what you've got to do. You've just got to try, see is there a weak point in Armstrong, and they just haven't been able to do that. He's been so dominant in the Alps and now in the Pyrenees. He's just untouchable. Armstrong is, and the way he's going up this climb, he's going for the jersey. Kivalep actually is losing time, losing quite a lot of time. So if he keeps on losing the time, he was 2 minutes down in the very, very early part of the climb. Armstrong will be in yellow at the finish this evening.
What an amazing turn up for the books. And as we saw there, struggling to get up to Lance Armstrong, Jan Ullrich. These two have been competing against each other for an awful long time now. Both of them ex-world champions. This man here, world champion of the world in 1993. Some 8 years ago, before he had his testicular cancer. When we go back to Jan Ullrich, just do bear in mind that he is the reigning Olympic champion. And when he took off in the Olympics in Sydney, and he drove up the climb out of the bay, and then went off with Wunderkopf and Cloden on that final lap and a half, he destroyed everybody's ambitions, including this one of Lance Armstrong. And that was a tremendous piece of bike riding by Jan Ullrich, who... how can I say he's an enigma? He's won the Tour of Spain as well. He's won the Olympic championship. Today it looks like he's lost to the man from America. Last year's winner and the previous year's winner, Armstrong, on his way to a triple. The Spanish supporters are still here in great numbers, but the specialist climbers have now really had to give up the challenge to this man Armstrong, riding himself surely into yellow jersey and on the way to victory on the Champs-Élysées. This is the way they're going up there, a very twisty little course, not too bad. There's no steep and nasty little climb to have you grovelling on your hands and knees. This is almost a lap of honour for Lance Armstrong. Well, bike racing being what it is, we don't want to wish ill of Lance Armstrong, but he can sometimes have a bad day in the office. Things can go wrong, but I hope he goes to the finish in Paris and gets that yellow jersey. We should not be biased, because this man here too has given us this year so far one of the greatest pieces of competition we've seen before. In previous years he's come into Tour de France a bit overweight, but this year he rode the Tour of Italy and he's been attacking attacking, and the best form of defence is to attack, but he decided not to defend his second place. He'd attack for the first spot. We saw him today, his hands are down there on the drops, and he really has given it everything today. Nobody can in any way say that he hasn't gone down without a fight, and it ain't over yet, by the way, because tomorrow, Sean, we have more big days in the mountain. What about the recovery for all these riders overnight? Because we had 3 days in the Pyrenees and 2 days in the Alps. This has got to be one of the most horrific Tour de France's in recent years.
Yes, it's a very hard trip through the Pyrenees here. Tomorrow, of course, we have another very, very hard day, and I think we can see another great day's racing tomorrow. Ulrich said today in the papers he was going to attack Armstrong at any moment he felt that that was possible, or that he felt that Armstrong was under some pressure, and we've certainly seen that today. He's done his job as he said he would, and but just Armstrong is just the same as Alpe d'Huez. He's just on the final climb, the way he can climb, and the rhythm of the pedal stroke, and 85 to 90 pedal strokes a minute. Like, it's amazing the way he can go, this guy, in over 6 or 7 kilometers.
2 weeks ago, that Saturday in Dunkirk, we had the prologue time trial. Since then, they've covered now something like 2,200 and odd kilometres of racing. We're talking about over 1,000 miles in 2 weeks. We've only had one rest day. Lots of riders have been taken advantage to get a victory here, a sprint there, a green jersey here, green jersey there, polka dot jersey here, polka dot jersey there. But until these last few days in the mountains, the question was who's going to win the Tour de France. We're still there up for grabs, and we're all waiting and waiting and waiting. Well, Lance Armstrong has shown in the climbs of the Alpe d'Huez, the time trial, and the climb yesterday and today, that he is the man to beat. He actually, I was amazed, Sean, he seemed to get a little bit here on the Alpe d'Huez. I don't think he got as much as he wanted. He only seemed to get a minute in the time trial. Yesterday he didn't get quite enough. Do you think he was just holding, then looking for like the day or tomorrow to really rip the thing to pieces? Always one thought he was catchable.
Yes, well, I think Ulrich is, he's in very good shape. We haven't seen him like this for a number of years now. But Armstrong is just that much better, and when he attacks, Ulrich is not able to match that sudden burst of speed. Ulrich just hasn't got that, and when Armstrong goes away on his own, Ulrich gets down to his own pace, limiting his losses, and that's what he's doing here again. Like, he's around the 48-50 seconds at the moment, so he's going to lose a minute today, like he did in the Alp. He lost his time in the beginning. When we see Armstrong going away, we said it was going to be many minutes, but Ulrich limited his losses very well, got down to his own rhythm, and limited his losses quite well.
Coming in then to what is going to be a triumphant victory on the stage here to the finish at Saint-Lary-Soulan after 194 kilometres of racing from Foix. This is stage 13. It's going to be unlucky for many of the people who had hoped to challenge Lance Armstrong for that yellow jersey. It looks like he's not only coming in to take the stage victory, but also the overall yellow jersey off Simon, who is still struggling down the mountainside. Kibelev is trying to stay close to perhaps challenge Armstrong for that yellow jersey. But whatever it is, this man has shown today he's the man to beat in the 2001 Tour de France. Lance Armstrong desperately looking for his third victory in this great race, and now in the sunshine beat, a look on his face, he is not giving up a beat. He's not sitting there and saying, okay, I'll coast in and wait to feel. I'm still giving it everything I've got. All the training, all the dedication, all the planning, all the time he's ridden, all the climbs during the the early part of this season, when he had his whole program ready for the Tour de France, scientifically planned to take this race for the third time. There's some way to go yet. We don't finish till Sunday week in Paris, but right now Armstrong has said, I'm the man to beat. What a demonstration of sheer confidence and ability by Lance Armstrong. But Ulrich has not given in without a fight the like of which we've not seen in previous years. This year he wanted to win the Tour. It ain't over yet still. Look at his face. He fell off on the way down that mountain. He attacked Armstrong today. We've got another great day in the mountains tomorrow. As you can see, Sean, and I can see, he has not stopped fighting, eh?
No, he certainly hasn't. He certainly, worked at it very, very hard, and the day he's had a crash on the descent, and he's given everything on this descent, and he's given it right to the line. We see here, like he's digging in, giving his all, and certainly, he's really, a big champion.
59 seconds he's lost today, but Ulrich is still prepared to have a go. And for all you people back there, maybe I know that some of you only watch the Tour de France. This year has been a great year, and for some of you just watching for the first time, the way in which we Eurosport cover it right the way through, hour after hour after hour, then I hope that you won't say, well, that's it, I'm going to go fishing or take the dog for a walk, and I'll look back again on Sunday. I don't think it's over yet. Not only has Ulrich shown today he's determined to go for it, there are many other things still to go on. Down the road, just imagine that Eric Zabel and O'Grady still fighting for the green points jersey. Here, Balocchi coming in, having to look after his third spot he got last year in the race. And there, Jerez, winner of the Tour of Spain last year. Still a lot of work to do tomorrow. And this man here, Simon, battling up here. Well, I think the time checks will come that he might well lose the jersey. But Sean, again, who would ever thought that we'd see Simon in yellow when we started out just 2 weeks ago?
Well, nobody could have really dreamt that, and for Simon and for the Bonjour team, it's that break to Port-Allier, like that was it was the break of the year, and Simon has really benefited on the team from that.
And here, Gosselli too looked like he'd had enough of the race further back in days before, but now finishing just 2:29 down, showing he's still prepared to have a go to get a stage victory for his Mapei team. But Simon going slower and slower and slower, but still having had that yellow jersey, he took it over on the stage into the Alpe d'Huez. He was part of that breakaway group that had to leave us in like 35 minutes. Amazing break we had on that particular day, which set the whole scene for what we've been seeing recently. And look at this crowd. Here comes Jalabert. Now, I'm going to shut up. Let's listen to the noise for Laurent Jalabert, the hero of today. Jalabert riding in just over 3 minutes down, but surely into the polka dot jerseys, king of the mountains. Well, the orange jerseys of the Escadrille team, they've been all the way up the climb today, and we've seen a right mixed bag, an American, a German, an Italian, and then beyond that a Frenchman, and plus the Basque riders, another Frenchman coming, and the Kivilev here from Kazakhstan. It's a real mixed bag of nations on this year's Tour de France. The days gone by, the major nations, the Italians, the French, the Spanish would dominate, and the Belgians would dominate cycle racing, but we're seeing so many new nations come up now, and that's attracting spectators from all over the world. This Tour de France is being beamed all across the world. It's going out overnight to Australia, going out right now to America, going out all across Europe on Eurosport, and the babble of nations' voices in the commentary box here where we are, and upstairs where the radio broadcasters are sending messages out to places like Colombia. We actually broadcast all over Europe as well, but some far off nations too who enjoy cycle racing are tuned in to this great sport. The French have had a really good tour so far, with Jalabert taking the polka dot jersey. They've enjoyed every moment of the polka dot jersey being on the back of Roux. They enjoyed the moment when Moreau took the yellow jersey on day one, but unfortunately suffering with a chest cough, he became out the yellow jersey. But Simon here, coming into the stage finish, he'll enjoy that moment that he had in the yellow jersey. And honestly, Sean, when we had 8 French teams selected, 51 riders from France this year against 35 last year, a few people went top, but they have really entertained us so far, and they're still in there with a jersey in the shape of Laurent Jalabert. This is the race, the Tour de France. It's been going back to 1903, and chapeau to the French. What do you think?
Yes, well, the French teams have put up a very good battle in this race. They have been, very much present in the stages, in the breakaways. They've always been there, and of of course, the Bonjour team, this performance they have and having the yellow jersey for a number of days, it's been a marvellous tour for them. And also Jalabert, of course, who would have reckoned that they would have such a great tour. And so a lot of the smaller teams that we did not expect to do so well have had a great tour up to now.
Well, the white jersey leader, Sevilla, just coming in for the Como Costa Blanca team. I think he'd probably still be in the white jersey as leader on the younger rider competition. But Simon is not going to give up without riding himself almost to a standstill here as the riders coming in. Just look at the time which we have. And bear in mind, by the way, we started with 160 riders. We've dropped 2 so far. A lot of people here will be struggling to stay inside the time limit, so plenty of entertainment for this massive crowd as they watch what they call the bus come up the climb here today. But it's been a fantastic day, and the big thing today, Sean, and I'd like your comment, is the way in which it was dribs and drabs, individual riders, no sort of bunch of 50, then came 40, then came 30, and 2 down the road. It was just almost every man for himself.
Well, there was a lot of attacking earlier on, and we see a lot of riders going up the road, and that naturally makes it very, very difficult. And Vina Clough we see here, who was very active in the early part of the telecom tactic, and a very, very active race right from the beginning, and certainly a difficult race for the US Postals to control, because when you get a lot of riders up there, it's always if you get more than 3 or 4 riders, it's difficult to control behind, because you have a lot of work to do to pull back groups like that.
And Simon is still riding hard. In fact, here he's beginning to pull back some of the riders that were up in front of him on the road. He will not go up without a fight. There's Stefan Guber is going from Jean de la Tour. Well, they had the polka dot jersey overall before with Ogland, and then Rooks took it over. Then they've now lost it. So the Jean de la Tour team, who missed out on a selection last year, will at least look back at what's happened so far with some satisfaction, as the rest of the riders from the US Postal team come in here. Many riders further down the climb will be checking their watches to make sure they stay inside the time limit. So the spectators have been out here on a glorious day. It has been an absolutely superb day in the Tour de France. The sun beating down. This is typical Tour de France weather, thank goodness, after a miserable start to the race we had in the first few days. When I say miserable, that was the weather, not the bike racing, which has not missed a beat since Dunkirk 2 weeks ago. Well, we're just reveling in the atmosphere here at the finish line. Look at the flags. There's the Belgian flag. I've seen the Kazakhstani flag, Basque flags, stars and stripes flying. I wonder if Mr. George Bush is going to command the presidential airplane to come across and arrive at the finish of the Tour de France in a week's time. If Lance Armstrong wins that one, the Champs-Élysées is going to be bedecked in the stars and stripes. But all these other people are out here at the moment. You'll find them. Look at the flag. That's a Basque flag there. Red, white and green flag. French flags, Dutch flags, German flags, Belgian flags, Catalan flags on here as well. They come from far and wide, these people, to watch this great free show. And what is also, I think, an example of the tenacity of an athlete to push his body to a point where normally it would say stop. And when we were driving up this morning, we saw so many cyclists on their bicycles riding up, just savouring the atmosphere too, and you could see the look on their face. They were emulating in their own mind the way it was going to hurt these riders. But those people we saw riding up this morning had only come from the town down below. You imagine these riders here have ridden 194 kilometres on a day when the sun has come out and cooked them. Sean, it's a day not only when the sun is very pleasant to ride in, but the dehydration must really mean that when they get back tonight, they are a bit, excuse the word, knackered. And what do? Drink plenty of liquid now, or during the day, or tonight? This is not a normal day, as it's wedged in between a mountain climb yesterday, one today and one tomorrow.
Naturally with the warm conditions like today, you would lose a lot of liquid, and because of that, you would lose a bit of weight. But from the time they finish, they would drink quite a lot of liquids until they go to bed tonight, and you would come back up again in weight. But the riders they'll recover very, very quickly. They've been training for this event over many, many months. They've maybe ridden the Tour of Italy or Tour of Switzerland, so they've got trained for this event. And when you're 100% fit, it's amazing how quickly you recover again.
Well, this is a serious race, and I suppose I should just talk about the race, but I think this puts the picture to about some of the viewers we have who send in these emails to Eurosport. I've got one here from Ted Lunt in Ellesmere Port in Cheshire. He said, "Hi David and hi Sean, it's still the greatest sport in the world. I'm nearly 70 now. I used to race in the 1950s at Herne Hill track. My bike had bamboo rims on the wheels. Every turn the pedals the lads take on this tour, I'm doing the same for my armchair. I go to bed each night with sore legs. In my opinion, I should be the yellow jersey for about 1 minute and 10 seconds, but the stage he's riding about to take that. I think I should make it to Paris, but I'm just going to have a massage for my tired legs ready for tomorrow's stage." Well, that's just typical. People back at home, they feel for this race here too, and people who've ridden bikes can actually also feel what they're going through. But even those, if you haven't ridden bikes, if you come out to this part of the world, you'll just appreciate what these riders are going through, the speed at which they've been travelling so far, because coming into today's stage, they had averaged for the 1,500 miles uphill, down dale, under sometimes atrocious conditions, into headwinds, into cold and wet rainy conditions. They had averaged 25 and a bit miles an hour. How many people can ride a bike for 25 miles an hour for 1,000 miles and taking in only 1 day's rest? On the look of the face here of Simon, who is determined to defend that yellow jersey as hard as he could do. He knows now from that earpiece that it's gone, but he's going to still ride on to the French public who will appreciate what he has done so far. And Sean, his whole family of being cyclists must be completely right with him at the moment. Disappointing it may be, they must have a great feeling what he's done so far.
Yes, well, naturally there is disappointment when you lose the jersey, but you have to be realistic, and what he's done the last number of days, and carry the yellow jersey for a number of days in the Tour of France, I think he's going to be very, very happy about that, and it's something he will cherish for a long time, probably for the rest of his life.
So, coming in yet again, let's listen to the French applauding the magnificent performance of Francois Simon, who exceeded all expectations and taken that yellow jersey in the Tour de France. And here he comes. That was a battleground of the Tour de France that finally saw Francois Simon lose his jersey and saw Lance Armstrong win a stage which could be the turning point in this year's Tour de France. No stranger to winning stages in the Tour de France. He's taken 6 of them coming to this year. Probably the most dramatic was the one when his teammate Casatelli, the Olympic champion, died, and subsequently a couple of days later he got a stage there. He also surprised people with the first stage victory in Verdun, where he went through this year. But he made it look so easy, but it wasn't easy. It was tough today, but he's certainly now dominated the Tour, and he'll take some dislodging. Statistics coming up then for the overall situation. Mike Smith, I'm going to get my breath back. Read us through this.
Well, there you are, confirmation of the top 10 all the way down to Andrei Kivilev, who was in with a shout of taking the jersey at one stage, but he was no match for Lance Armstrong and finished 4 minutes and 2 seconds behind. The gap was less than a minute this morning, so his chance is gone. What a brave effort by Jan Ullrich, who attacked Armstrong on the lower slopes, but then the counter-attack came from Lance Armstrong, who took more than enough time to put himself at long last, David, back in the jersey which he's worn with such pride and honour on the Champs-Élysées twice already. Armstrong back in yellow.
Well, there he is then. a familiar side as far as Armstrong's concerned, but Sean, it did seem to me it took him a long time to get there this year, and the gap, although he was chipping away, he didn't seem, he's been dominant, but here he is now in yellow, up there on the restaurant. He should be able to keep it towards the end, but is it over yet? We haven't heard the fat lady sing.
Well, it's never over. We see today Ulrich, he's going to try and make the race hard for him again. He's finished second on a number of occasions, and he said in the paper, well, if I finish second, third or fourth, he said, well, it's going to be the same for me. So any chance at any moment I see that if there's opportunity to attack Armstrong, I'm going to do it. So I think we will see Ulrich very active tomorrow's stage again. But Armstrong is unless as we said some problem. I don't think physically on the normal racing point of view, I don't think we can see him create any problems.
And you may have heard over the back of Sean's comments the crowd applauding this man coming up onto the screen. Not only has he got the points to take the polka dot jersey, he's also won the combativity prize for the stage. The man in the polka dot jersey, Lance Armstrong. Well, what a reception he got, what a reception he's had every day we finished. If he takes that polka dot jersey into the Champs-Élysées, because from now on in we've just got a big bad day in the mountains tomorrow, but after that it just comes a bit undulating, and you can see the VIPs are joining up with him now there. Bernard Hinault tapping him on the back. This is the ride we saw today, which was unbelievable. Who would have expected when we set out today that Laurent Jalabert, normally a specialist sprinter, normally a man who loves the classics, normally a man who rides his heart out with the main field, and never do you see him up there in the mountains like we've seen today. Transformation of Laurent Jalabert, who took his life in his hands on the way down. He skidded and fell off. He had to have some problems with his double chainring, but he rode and rode and rode up to the top of this climb. He didn't get the stage victory he tried for, but he's got the polka dot jersey. Laurent Roux now losing that jersey, coming in 17 minutes and nearly 50 seconds down. Well, he did a great ride so far. Sean, who would have expected either that Roux would have got this jersey in the preliminary stages? I know that Holden, his teammate, has, then he took it over, but the French really have given their population something to talk about this year.
Yes, it certainly has, and Laurent Roux has he's done very well. He's defended this jersey for a couple of days, and we did not expect him when the first day he took the jersey, the mountain jersey, we did not expect him to hold it very long, but he's held on very well. He's been very active, getting away in the earlier breakaways and picking up some points here and there. But I think Jalabert, he's the one who could take it all the way to Paris.
Well, he doesn't look old enough really to leave school, does he? But this is the man who's leading on the young rider competition. A lot of bike riders, by the way, look at least 10 years younger than they are. And there is Oscar Sevilla taking that white jersey. So Manchebo, who won it last year, you spoke to Manchebo's mother on the climb up this big mountain. We were driving up at the time when we got held up. So Manchebo hasn't got the jersey today. Should we give her a lift on the way down?
Well, she was very confident that Manchebo was going to win, but I don't think he's in good form as he was last year. Last year he was much more active in the right through in the Alps and the Pyrenees. This year we haven't seen him perform as well. But
he was young rider last year. Sean, again, looking at young riders, as we look now at this man here on his screen who really burst upon the scene when he took the World Championship in 1993. Here we are 8 years later, that Lance Armstrong. A lot of young riders come through and don't maintain their momentum. He has, even having had that testicular cancer, he's fought back. Can they come back, the young riders, if they have a bit of trough when they go through the next pause in their career?
Yes, some do and some never come back. They have a very good year, and then the following year they have a down year, but they come back. And other ones we see them just for 1 year and 1 year only, and then we never see them after that again.
Well, here's another man, junior world champion, persisted with his bike racing, and even as last year showed that he was a great bike rider to be reckoned with when Ulrich won the Olympic road race to go on top of his Tour de France in 1997. Balocchi, we just saw him go across the screen in slow motion, third last year, still third today. today. And the riders coming here in dribs and drabs. They're the champion of Italy in the green, white and red, Nardello. You have to applaud him then, because look at where we're up in the mountains. He had a terrible crash, a couple of bad days right early in the race, didn't he? And if he packed his bags and gone home, nobody would have said, oh, you know, shame, shame, shame. But he's fought his way back. That's the guts and determination of people, eh?
Yes, Nardello has fought very hard to get back, because he had a very bad crash in the first 3 or 4 days of the tour, and I think he's got through that now, and I think we could see him later in this tour, getting away in a breakaway and trying to pull off a stage victory.
Well, this man pulled up the stage victory today then, like he did at Haute-Combe. That's 2 victories on the trot for him, and he's obviously shining in the mountains. Well, I suppose, Sean, do we have to now talk about Lance Armstrong as a specialist mountain climber as well, because he seems to be able to win the mountains and take over the victories, and this is another one of those times when he's triumphed in the mountains.
Yes, well, I think Lance is, when you have a hard stage like today, a number of mountains to come over, and he's unbeatable at that when you have almost 200 kilometres to cover and 4 or 5 mountains to get over. I think if you start a race at the bottom of Alpe d'Huez with a number of climbers and Lance, then the real climbers would be able to beat him. But over a long, hard day, there's nobody able to touch him.
Well, it's shown today as you look back down this mountain here. We're going to try and work our way down eventually. Fortunately, last night we got off the top of the mountains under police escort and got down and then up into the finishing area. We were down the valley last night, and we looked up in the evening and we could see the sparkling lights up here. There's the people, their camper vans were having their barbecues and parties and getting ready for the stage today. They've seen a cracking stage today, and to repay them for those people, as you look down here, as they were walked up, and the many people here at the top of this climb are going to have to walk down the mountain they walked up. They will appreciate it, how those riders have ridden their bikes up, and those cyclists who rode up too will know full well what it was like to come up here, but not how it was like to ride after you've been riding 1,500 miles. There down below is where the spectators have come from riding their bikes up. They'll appreciate what's happened today. I hope you have appreciated it too as well. We've enjoyed having your company. We're going back to look at what's happened during the day with Mike Smith in Paris. Sean Kelly with me here too has been, I think, Sean, really soaking up the race today. How do you feel about it, quickly?
Well, it's been a fabulous race, and very, very active, good racing, but the amount of people that come out here on the climbs, I was worried about the riders getting in here. There were so many people on the final climb.
Well, we're going to make our way downstairs. We hope to have your company with us tomorrow, but do stay with Eurosport for more action coming up from Paris. I'm David Duffield, Sean Kelly and myself. We say to you bye-bye from this fantastic stage 13 of the Tour de France.
The Tour de France.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome once again to the Tour de France. My name's Mike Smith, and very soon I'll be queuing over live to the action on this day's stage to David Duffield and Sean Kelly. The day's stage from Tarbes to Les Ardennes, the last of the big mountain stages in the heart of the Pyrenees. Yesterday, you might recall, on the road from Foix to Saint-Lary-Soulan, we saw yet another confrontation between those two arch rivals, Lance Armstrong and Jan Ullrich, but not without its problems. Jan Ullrich going over the verge and down into a ditch on one of the descents, and Laurent Jalabert out in front, the hero of the day, survived that little spill to take over the lead in the King of the Mountains competition. But he had no answer to the flying Lance Armstrong, neither too did Jan Ullrich. So moving on to this last big Pyrenean stage, and we reached the highest point above sea level of the entire Tour de France today, with the riders going over the mighty Col du Tourmalet and past the new Souvenir Jacques Godet, recently instituted following his death in the last year or two, a new memorial to the man who was the big chief of the Tour for many, many years. A big mountain stage then, going over the Aspen, the Tourmalet, and finishing at the top of Les Ardennes, and Lance Armstrong once more in yellow. The first time in this Tour de France. It's taken him, on his own admission, a little longer than normal, thanks to a 14-man break which went clear about a week or so, gained a massive amount of time and all the rest. Kovalev now down into second place behind him, Simon, Ullrich, Bellocchi, Gonzalez, Galdiano, and only 4 riders now within 10 minutes of the American on the general classification as we come to this last big mountain stage. Well, as you see, not a cloud in the sky. This was the scene at the start in Tarbes earlier this morning, and there's Laurent Jalabert in his new King of the Mountains jersey, talking to people and us as well, saying, well, I was very lucky to be out in front yesterday, and I picked up some good points in this King of the Mountains competition, and I intend to wear this jersey with dignity. I trust that my team will be able to help me as much as possible to carry the jersey on into Paris. Well, there you saw a brief shot of Jan Ulrich, and there, of course, the man himself, yellow, Lance Armstrong. Well, there's been quite a bit of action. We've already been through the two sprints of the day, and we've been over 3 minor climbs so far. But now we're on one of the biggies, the first category climb of the Col d'Aspin. There's a group of about 9 or 10 riders, I think it is, out in front. They're about 3 kilometres short of the top. So, setting the scene there, let's now hand over to David and Sean.
Well, thank you for that then, Mike, and a good afternoon to you, and I mean a very, very good afternoon to you, because the sunshine here is absolutely glorious. At the start this morning it was 30 degrees, and it's warmed up to 40 degrees in the valleys and away from the wind, which is very gentle from the southeast. There are people out in bikinis and almost like bathing suits, and the men have stripped out their shorts, and it really is going to be a hot day in the saddle for these riders, because what was forecast this morning of being about 19 degrees at the finish, in fact it's getting hotter by the minute. The sun is bouncing off the rocks here, and although it's a short course today, 90 miles, that's 144 kilometres, they've been enlivening the thing since we started out early this morning. We do have 10 men away, as you were just being hearing then, and the 10 men are Hepner from the Telecom team, together with Cloden, 2 Telecom riders out in front at the moment. Belly is there from the Fassa Bartolo team, Pozzi from Fassa as well, and we've got Etz out from the Lotto team, Moncuti, Cofidis, Julik from the Credit Agricole, Joubert from the Della Tour team, Robin from Bonjour, and Montgomery from La Française de Jeux. We're getting very close to the top of the climb now for our breakaway group. Here they are on the screen, just looking to see 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Looks like we've shed one on the way up, and as we're getting close toward the top now, we'll look back at the intermediate happening so far. Sean, we started with that first sprint of the day at Bagnères de Bigorre, and run us down on that situation there, Bagnères de Bigorre.
Yes, after 17 kilometres, and we see there were quite a bit of action. The Credit Agricole guys weren't leaving the points for easy taking for Zabel, and we see Voigt, he went off down the road, and he went through a number of seconds ahead, and there was quite a hotly contested sprint for the second place between O'Grady was up there, Zabel naturally was up there, but Pataki was second and Nazon was third. Zabel did not manage to take any points with the green jersey, and it was very hotly contested. And then the second one, the group was up the road, of course, and we see Robin went through there first, Goubert was second, and Hepner was third.
And that second sprint was after 61 kilometre racing. The first one was after 17 kilometre racing. Between that, we had 3 climbs: a 4th category at Haute de Côte, a 3rd category at Mauvaisin, and a 4th category at Cap Verne-les-Bains. They're now on the climb of the Col d'Aspin, getting close to the top. Well, the riders dropping off, you see here, left, right and centre, and it's getting very, very tough as we go towards the top of the first big climb of the day. Let's look back then, Sean, at the 3 climbs that had preceding this one up to 21 kilometres, one up to 34, and then one up to 37.
Yes, well, the first one was a 4 category climb, as you say, 21 kilometres, David, and Voigt was first over the top, Bartoli was second, and Robin was third. And the second climb of the day, a 3rd category, which was after 34.5 kilometres. Algon was first, Bourget was second, and Vignocroft was third. And then the 3rd climb of the day was a 4 category climb after 37 kilometres, and Robin was first over the top, Montgomery second, and Belly third. And now, of course, we're on the last band, getting close to the top with this breakaway, which was, and I think they're still all in there, 10 men in the leading breakaway.
Those dropping onto the back, we just saw the lad in the green and blue jersey riding for Festina. That's one of the young riders in this race, Florent Brad, who started off very well indeed in this race, but is now beginning to suffer with the distance that's been covered, because as at this morning, since we started the tour just on 2 weeks ago, they've now covered 2,286 kilometres, and this is the sort of territory they're tackling today. There it is, that's the Col d'Aspin. They're on this one. Starting rather moderately, but just going a bit steeper there with the 7%er. But this is the nasty bit now. They've come up that one. That's where most of the damage was done to the main pack, who's been whittled down and thinned down by the speed of the race so far. Up towards the top, and then when they go down the other side, they go into the valley at 92 kilometres. They'll be at the feed zone at Saint-Marie-de-Campagne. Very famous little village indeed when we get there, and they might show us the plaque on the wall at the forge where Christophe repaired the forks on his bicycle. We'll come to that one when we get down through there and put you in the picture, but it's a piece of real history. And in fact, today's stage is retracing history in that the Pyrenees were first put into the Tour de France in 1910, and the big mountains you're going to see ahead, particularly the giant of the Pyrenees, that very famous Tourmalet, yet lies ahead. And I think, Sean, that's probably the Tourmalet. Do you think they're likely to blow the thing apart on that climb, or wait till the final run up toward the finish today, bearing in mind it's only 144 kilometres? This is our breakaway group, but behind are the main condensed crowd. Forecast on the Tourmalet or later on?
It's difficult to know what the tactic is. Of course, we see yesterday the telecoms were very active, and Ulrich was very active, and I reckon we could see something happen again on the Tourmalet, because with Ulrich two riders up in his breakaway group, I think they will try something to see if they can find any little weak spot in Armstrong, which they haven't found up to now, and he's so impressive. But I think Ulrich said, well, I finished second in the Tour on a number of occasions. I don't want to do it again. I'm going to try, not really I don't want to do it again, but he said if I finish third or fourth, he said it's the same, so I'm going to try everything at every chance I get.
Well, we're going back then to the back end of the peloton and seeing them here struggling up this climb at the moment. Then the field all spread out. In fact, now this is, I think, of our lead group. They're going backwards and forwards and confusing us commentators. That's Moncucci at the back here in this group at the moment, and Odrizola at 2:15. The last we heard, he did have another rider with him, and at one time Garcia Costa and Pierpoli were between the leaders and the main pack. But I fear somehow that we're going to only to have that 8 or so men in front at the lead. Let's look at the breakaways. Mike.
Yes, David, 36 kilometres when they went away, and they've been over a couple of climbs on their own, this little breakaway, and as you can see, the lead did go up to 4 minutes and 35 seconds, but now it seems to be coming back. They've dropped one or two riders off the back of it, of course. It's getting very hard for them out there on the Aspen, and your piece of cheese is melting.
Well, it's the sunshine, Mike. It's extremely warm up here. It's bouncing off the rocks, as you can see on either side of the road here. The Pyrenees are well known for cheese, by the way, the Fromage de Pyrenees. It's a large disc-shaped cheese made with used milk and a brownish rind on it and a light yellow curd. A strong, what's known as a strong rustic taste of high-altitude dairy products. And we are at high altitude here at the finish, 1,715 metres above the sea level at Lutz-Ardiden. 1 kilometre to go to the top of the climb now. Thanks then to Mike with a bit of cheese. By the way, that came, that quote, from a book, Gastronomical Roads of the French Provinces, printed in 1968. It's 33 years old, nearly as old as me, and it was sent to me by Stu Morrison, who was a banjo player with the Chris Barber Band in the 1970s, and a good friend of Pete Duker, who many of us knew, the late Pete Duker, who wrote a number called 6 Day Rider and produced a 12-inch LP with that going full blast. And of course, Chris Barber did sponsor a bike racing team for a short while, co-sponsored by the Sun. So coming all the way back then from Stu Morrison. Thanks for that then, Stu. Keep staying the old banjo at the mark of the Granby. We've got more statistics coming up. Mike is raring to go when it comes on the screen. Is it? As Julik still on the front. So still then, Julik on the front, no statistics coming up. Back to the race then, and there the pink jerseys of the Telecom team post up there. 2 of them, in fact, now are having a go. There is the rider from the Lotto team, Ertz, going through. Just behind him, the red, white and blue colours of Cofidis. Fassa Bortolo here, their rider just hanging on in the back. Not doing much work at the moment, it's Pozzi. Go across on the right-hand side, Cloden. How do you read this though, Sean, with, I know they sent 2 riders down the road, to have Cloden down there. He has normally been very much the right-hand man of all. Getting toward the top here, is this stretching their resources?
Well, not at all really, because they don't have to ride behind. They have 2 men up the road. They haven't been doing any riding, since this breakaway went clear of the bunch. We've seen the postals, US postals have been doing all the pace setting in the bunch, and they're getting a handy ride behind the telecom guys. Of course, the Bonjour guys seems to be doing quite a bit of riding today, so they are giving a big handout to the US postals, and I suppose Simone, he wants to keep up there in the general and maybe hold a place in the first 5, and that's maybe their plan.
Going back then to the main pack, and they don't seem to be too bothered about that. It could be, say, that they'll wait for the next big climb. They go to the top of the Aspen. But according to my calculations, the tour's been up 63 times. Klaus Anger, my German colleague, says 64. And as he's a better statistician than I am, I'll go with Klaus's 64. Last time, 1999, when Piccoli went over the top. Lapise first over in 1910. And here they go over the top then of the climb of the Col d'Aspin, dating all the way back to 1910. Let's go through, and we will give the official result of that one when we go down the other side. Let's keep your fingers crossed. We had some hair-raising descents yesterday. Sean, what about Ulrich's confidence? We've got 2 thumping great descents today. I know that there were some anxious moments for Laurent Jalabert too on the descent yesterday, but will he still go eyeballs out on this particular drop, or do you think that that will have shaken his confidence? It isn't too bad, this descent. It's a sort of a gradual one with a couple of sharp bits in it, and even worse, he's got to go on off the top of the Col de Tourmaline. How would you rate his confidence? How long did it take you to get over a crash like that? You were telling me you went down a side of a mountain and bounced off the bushes and went down 25 feet. How long did it take you to get over that?
Well, I don't think it won't need any time to get over that. He just slid on the corner on some gravel, and nothing really. Just lost a bit of skin off his elbow and his hip, and lost a number of seconds. But I don't think that will dent his descending at all, because it's really when you go over the top or something and run over a cliff or something like Ulrich yesterday, that's where you get the real fright.
Lads are now being pulled back. He was riding with Odriozola at one time, and they were 2 minutes 50 seconds down. They're losing ground all the way on our leading 10. Now he's going back, leaving Odriozola out in no man's land. Garcia Costa and Pierpoli were also trying to bridge that gap too, but the peloton was just maintaining a fairly steady pace, you can see here. Not many people off the back on this climb of the Col d'Aspin. Over the Col d'Aspin, according to our quick calculations, it was Bobby Julich that went over in first spot. Jean-Cyril Robin, who's quite a useful climber, Robin. He was one of the best placed Frenchmen about 3 years ago in the Tour de France. He went into a bit of a trough. I think he went and rode with the US Postman, didn't do much there, but he's now back riding for the Bonjour team. He went over in second place, just ahead of Joubert for De La Tour. Lads and then hanging on for grim death. Another spectator looking to be run over by 30 or 40 cyclists, especially cyclists at that too. Well, CSC must be really enjoying the success they had yesterday with Jalabert, and Jalabert too must be very pleased with what happened yesterday with anything, and I'm sure perhaps all his colleagues must be right behind him too.
Yes, well, he said yesterday in the break, he said they were fluting around. They weren't really prepared to work, and there was guys trying to sit on, and he said when it gets like that, when the break gets disorganised, he said he just decided to go off on his own, and that's what he did. He would have liked another rider or two to come up to him, but he was hoping there would be somebody strong enough to come across, and they never did. And he said he wasn't giving it really 100% earlier on. He was dosing his effort, and he said when they didn't come up to me, he just went on his own then, and he said the mountain prize was of course his target for the day.
Gonzalez Galdiano going back for Bottles, and here comes Jalabert now, just looking for some more points. It is a first category climb, so he's going to get some more points in this one, and we'll jot down his position. I think he's going to be about 11th. Odriozola might have got over in first spot, in 11th spot, so at least Jalabert now searching for some more points on the climb up here, and that will be significant. as he comes up. In fact, he's closing on Odrizola, but Odrizola is just going to pip into the post, so that is 11th place according to my calculations. And here he comes. Camera not too clear on that one, but I reckon Jalabert was 12th over the top of that first category climb. We'll wait for confirmation of that one. Well, he's a demon descender, Jalabert. Do you think he'll sort of nip off down there, or just wait for this lot to come together, or staying near the front, Sean?
Well, I think he will just make the descent with the front part of the bunch, and hold on until the following climb, and hopefully that he can mark up some points there. He did not get up in any of the earlier classmen, so I think he will be trying to get up on the Tourmalet and to mark some points there.
And the travelling cavalcade still out there. See all the vehicles as we start to drop down now the other side of the Aspen, heading towards the Tourmalet. Well, that's where it drops down now. Not quite as vicious as the way up, because it sort of levels off a bit. See a little bit of plateau, then down to the Surb and to the famous little town of Saint-Marie-de-Campon. At the bottom there, 840 metres above sea level. So they've dropped something around 600 metres to get down to the valley. And when they get into the valley, well, it's a bit lumpy, it's not particularly flat, and there's a long old drag right up to the top of the Tourmalet, and it will be 109 kilometres covered in the race, and just 38 kilometres to go. Quite a long climb, because the Saint-Marie-de-Campon is 92 kilometres into the race, so I've got a thumping great climb up the Col de Tourmalet, 17 kilometres of climbing at an average of 7.4%. That's what lies ahead of this field, the remaining 152. Well, on the descent now, have something in excess of 2 minutes lead on the main field. They are in the valley of Saint-Marie-de-Campon, and they had the last time check had a lead of 2 minutes and 10 seconds after the top of that climb. Confirmation of that climb then as follows: Julik first, Robin second, Guber in third spot, fourth Belly, fifth Montgomery, sixth Cloden, seventh Moncuti, eighth Ertz, ninth Fozzy, 10th Hepner. So those were the 10 men. Odrizola was still on his way up as well. Vlodsund had been caught into the main field, but we did have a Piapoli, I think, who stayed away on the top of the climb too, didn't he, Sean?
Yes, from my reckoning, Piapoli was still up ahead, and we had Jalabert who came over. I think I make it in 13th position, but we didn't get any verification on that yet.
So after Lapise went over in 1910, many famous names have been over there, people like Robic, Coppi, Bartali, Volbe, Bermontes, Imper, many of the star climbers a day, and in recent years Chiapucci, Veronk and so on. But looking back to 1989, it was Robert Miller who went over the top in first spot, and he got the over the top there on that particular occasion. I'm not sure if Robert is listening back there on British Eurosport, but thanks to all of you for tuning in, and in particular I think a medal, in fact I might buy him a drink next time I meet up with him, to Harry Foxton, well known in the cycle industry, who survived the whole of the course yesterday and watched the whole of the stage. And to him and Pat we wish you well, and to all you people from the cycle industry and the bike clubs who survived the day in the saddle and watched our complete output. I know some of you have done, Mike Harry did as well. Thanks for your support. By the way, the vast number of emails and the number of people switching on does one big thing. It for the bosses up there on the top floor, it gives them confidence in the future to give you more and more cycle racing. Thanks for all of you tuning on. It was a cracking day's racing yesterday, and I think we're in Sean for another day, not somewhat dissimilar today, because this really is going to be the showdown, isn't it?
Yes, well, it certainly is going to be the showdown, and we've had a lot of very active racing right from the start today. There was attacks all the time. They never created a great gap. Any of the groups got away until this 10-man group got together, as we've mentioned, and that's the group have created the biggest gap. So I think we will see a lot of action, and I think in the next climb on the Tourmalet, I think we will see quite a bit of action.
Well, some statistics coming up on the screen, but the most surprising one to me, by the way, was in 1976 when Gerben Carstens got over the top of the climb. That's amazing. In fact, it seems the statistics has got melted into the sun too as well. But Sean, Gerben Carstens, he was a bit of a sprinter, and I used to watch him sort of galloping along in the old days of the Chi Valley team. How on earth did he get over in 1976? Was he hanging onto a door handle? You've got any news from the front on Mr. Carstens, who was not the world's greatest mountain climber?
No, he certainly was not a climber at all, and I was amazed when you said that. And maybe that 76 possibly had a stage which was quite flat, and he went away maybe with a group of sprinters, and that they got a big advantage before they got to the bottom of the climb. But he certainly would need a very big advantage to make his way to the top here. He'd need a 10 or 12 minute advantage at the bottom to make it to the summit here,
or a handy motorcycle going by.
Yes, well, that's something which did happen a bit more in the years ago, because there weren't as many commissars, and of course the helicopter shots we hadn't got at that time, so there were quite a bit more of that, where now it's virtually impossible.
And Gerben, if you're listening out there, we don't be disrespectful, but we're full of amazement. In fact, I've run a little note now in my book here. I'm going to get back to Britain. I've got all the results, all the write-ups, all the stories of the Tour de France going back for many, many years in my vast library. I can't bring it all, otherwise A, I'd never had time to go through it all, and B, I think we would have to have a truck to bring it. So I'm going to see how Carstens got over in 1976, and let's call somebody out there can email us, having gone into the books too, and said, oh, on that stage he did that. So if you've got any information about Mr. Carstens in 1976, whack it through to British Eurosport at www.eurosport.com.uk, or whack it through to France, and hope somebody will dig it out the vast pile and send it on to us. Another of those rather interesting piece of background to the Tour de France. Here with the main group, and we're trotting along in the valley of the Saint Marie de Compound, right down there, and history was made when this particular part of the course many years ago, when they were riding bicycles with single speed gears, long laid back frames with great wheelbases, and fat tires on it too. It was in 1913, descending down into Saint Marie de Compound, where the rides are coming through now, that Christophe smashed his forks. He cracked them just between where the front column is, when it goes in to the top of the forks, and he had to go down there. He came down 13 kilometres down to the forge in the village with one part of his bike on the one shoulder, and the front wheel with the fork broken off at the top, held in the other hand. Took it down to the forge, and there he managed to braze together the fork and the column, and it took him something like about half an hour or more to do it, and the riders that he'd been ahead of went zooming past him, and he lost a lot of time on that day, not only through repairing his bike, but also the UCI officials then docked him more time, because he had a boy using the bellows to put the air down into the coals to provide the heat, to melt the brass, to mend the front fork, and they docked him time for that. Can you imagine how it was in those days? You look back at the bikes they were riding in those days, they'd have a single speed wheel, they'd take it out, turn it round for the descents and on the flat, and then turn it round again for a lower gear going up. Just to recap then, with that bit of history, 10 men away at the moment: Hepner, Cloden, Belly, Posey, Aerts, Moncuti, Julik, Juba, Robin and Montgomery are away at the moment. Talking about history then and bike design over the years, things have changed dramatically since those days. The multi-gears they're using, new lightweight equipment as well, and I've got one of the McQuaid clan with me here, Dan, who's working with Trek, and I'm not supposed to advertise, but I do like to give credit where it's due then to what's going on in this day and age, new developments. I understand for this race, for Lance Armstrong, that he's riding on a very lightweight frame. Tell us a bit about that frame he's riding on.
Well, David, it's the lightest production frame in the world. The Trek 5900 it has 110 grams of carbon fibre per square metre, and Lance is riding the lightest production frame in the world, and you can go into a dealership and buy that very bike, which is quite unique. Most of the riders in the peloton, they have custom made frames, but Lance is pure production stuff. He's worked with the engineers in Trek in Waterloo to produce this frame and tweak it, and for instance the fork is a straight blade and a carbon crown on the top of the fork.
Well, a very different fork then for the one that was broken by Christophe years ago. Now then, do you think Kivilev will finish on the podium in Paris? Because he's been hovering there or thereabouts at the top end of the field since that breakaway group got to like 35 minutes on the field. Whack in your Eurosport.com ideas, say yes or no, and Mike Smith will tonight in his roundup of today's racing give the result of that. Will Kivilev finish on the podium in Paris? We won't advise your opinions by telling you what we think about it, but he's surprised a lot of people so far. We have got a long way to go yet in towards the finish of the race. Going back to that frame that he's riding, does Lance have much input, or is this totally down to the engineers? So did he go out and ride them and say, make a change here, make a change there? How much input does he have? He's
quite a bit of input with the engineers. The frame is designed and tested in Waterloo in Wisconsin, and for the last 2.5 years, since Lance has been winning and leading the Tour de France, he has gone to Waterloo each winter, and also a wind tunnel in Austin, Texas, particularly for his time trial bike, to put molds onto it and check in the wind tunnel and get the most aerodynamic shape.
Now, my good friends at UCI, I use that word sort of loosely, but I've been having odds on bags on with them over the years, talking about how they've been trying to standardise bike development and design. What happens really with this bike when you put the bits onto it? Because isn't it a minimum rate of 7.1 kilograms? How far can you go before you have to start putting on, lead cranks or something?
Well, naturally, I think the manufacturers will push the envelope as far as they can. I mean, I think the UCI are putting certain rules in for reasons which not some of us don't really understand. But the manufacturers like Trek are pushing the envelope in design and innovation, and it shows that there's no better endorsement than, we hope, 3 Tours de France victories in a row for a product. It's the first American bike to win the Tour de France, and it's a fantastic machine.
No. Taking it back home, by the way, because aren't Trek bikes put together, built, or
they have a facility in Carlow in Ireland, which has been going about 3 years now, and it's going very well. Well, the company was started by a chap called Richard Burke, and obviously it's an Irish name, and there's many Irish people Irish Americans in the company, so it was a tie-up between Holland and Ireland for the factory. So maybe the company founder's surname has something to do with it.
I've been surrounded by Irishmen. Sean Kelly once, I get you here from the Quay dynasty, if I can use such a word. How's your brother now with the UCI? Because he's working his way up, isn't he, Pat, in the dynasty of the UCI?
Yeah, he's on the board of the management board of the UCI, and he manages the committee for under 23s, ladies and juniors, which is quite a heavy portfolio.
Do you see much him back at home?
No, I think he's just back from Malaysia. He's routing the route for next year's Tour of Malaysia. So
thanks for that then. Well, they're back here on the road. I want to say the only flat part. We do have a bit of a flattish bit down before we start the final climb of the day. And Sean, how's it going at the moment? 48 kilometres left. How do you see it?
Well, the bunch is still at around 4 minutes, and we have Ordizola, who's at 2:40, and we see there was a few attacks there out of the bunch, and actually the Telecom riders are quite active, because Bowles he was up there in the attack. So I think we're going to see something later on, because they seem to want to send riders up the road all the time before they go on to the Tourmalet. So there must be some tactic within the Telecom team that they're trying to get as many riders up the road as possible, and I presume we're going to see like yesterday, where Ulrich he attacked and went across to a teammate, and then on the descent, of course, he went a bit too fast and ran out in the corner, and was lucky actually he didn't injure himself, because at the rate he was going, it could have been much more serious.
Well, we're going to look at the profile of the climb coming up next as to where they'll be going, and a man who finished in, 13th spot, Jalabert, on that climb would have got a few more points in the Kingman's competition. Going into today's stage in the Kingman's competition, he had, by virtue of his fantastic ride yesterday, really started to dominate the King of the Mountains competition. Now let's look at what lies ahead of him on this next part of the course. Well, there it is. Sean, you're pretty familiar with this one. In fact, we come over both ways. Which is the hardest way to come over, in your opinion?
Well,
it's hard as go on, tell me it's equally hard.
Both are equally hard. There's sometimes you say that one side is a little bit easier, but it depends again on your day, if you're on a really good day, and depending also what the action is in the bunch or in the group you're in. So I don't think there's any easy side. And when you look at the climb, it's 2,115 meters high, 16.9 kilometers of a climb. It's a grueling climb, and today, like the heat out there, it's got very, very warm suddenly. Yesterday was the first day of the heat, and today it's 35 degrees in the valley, so it's going to be very, very warm. The air on the climb, especially in the first half of the climb, will be so warm there. There's no oxygen in it, and when you breathe in the air, it feels so warm. And of course, with the number of spectators outside the road and all these barbecues going, it makes it worse again.
Now then, we're over the top of that one. We go straight down the valley, and we've got the thumping great Lutz Ardiden as well, and there's not much rest, and they come out, they rest down, but there's the next bit after that, not on the flat can they sort of relax and regroup at all. Straight up to Lutz Ardiden. The Col de Tourmalet, 17 kilometres of climbing, as you saw there, average 7.4%, then the Lutz Ardiden. Knowing that there's a rest day tomorrow, would that make any difference to all the field or some of the field?
Well, it will help a lot of the field, and the ones who are suffering a lot is going to help them, and the guys who are going to try to make it inside the time limit, the Gruppetto riders, because they can really go hard today and they have a time to recover tomorrow, so that suits them. But also, the big favourites like the Ulrichs, I think he's going to say, well, I'm going to give it everything today. I'm going to try and blow this thing to part and have a day to recover. So I think they will all have have it in their mind, well, they have a bit of a day to recover tomorrow.
So massacre time lies ahead, and that's the route they're taking. Not straight over the top down the other side, but nearly. And they're beginning to struggle here. Looks like one's dropping off the back of that leading group at the moment. So as the field now beginning to close down a little bit. What was the latest time check we got? I can't hear my race ready for some reason, Sean. What's it looking like now?
Well, the last time check we had was around the 4 minutes, and I think it's still hanging around that. We see, one of the telecom guys, Hepner now, who's losing ground on this breakaway group. But I think the peloton haven't been really riding at 100%, and I think it's really on this climb on the Tourmalet that we will see some of the action. If it's not from the telecom guys, I think some of the other teams, the Spanish teams, I think we will see a bit of action from them, because they have so much supporters out there, and here at the finish, of course, there's so much people from the Basque country and from all over Spain. I think we will see a lot of action from them.
Well, just going back to the situation in the King of Mountains competition, thank you for that, Sean, that input in what's going to happen up here. And my goodness, I think all of us, our sympathies go out to those who've not been watching cycle racing at this depth before. I know we picked up a lot of terrestrial viewers who would only be getting something like about half an hour, maybe only 17-20 minutes of racing. When you now see what they go through on these long climbs, it's almost unbelievable what they have put up with after being racing now, because we're just coming up to 2 weeks of racing, and we've still got another week to go, although there's another rest day tomorrow. There's 2 rest days. And on the mountain climbs yesterday, wonderful ride by Laurent Jalabert. He took the Col de Lament, he took the Col de Portignon, he took the Col de Perosur. Fantastic ride by Jalabert, and he has now got 257 points in the King of the Mountains competition, and the other French rider, Lutz, who had the polka dot jersey before that, has 195. So according to my arithmetic, there are 62 points between the two of them. And when we came over the top of the smaller climbs, they weren't in contention, and the points there weren't very great. But the last climb, the Col d'Aspin, there were 12 riders in front of Laurent Jalabert. He sprinted over to be 13th. Unlucky for him, there's no points for being 13th. He goes down to 12th according to my notes here, and he just missed out on one slender point. But he did show there that he's still got something in his legs. We were talking earlier on about lightweight bicycles and UCI regulations. It was interesting that Jalabert he was riding on a look bike yesterday. I don't know what that one weighed, but it certainly was a light one. And when he used to ride with the Onse team, they did design a special giant bike for him before the regulations came in, where he actually rode on the mountain, just up the mountains, a bike which was below the regulation 7.1 kilogram weight for a bike, which is now in force. I don't know if we should go around with a set of scales and weigh the bikes before they go, but I know some people, oh God, there he goes on technicalities, but it's interesting for you to just think about the weight of bicycles when you've got your old banger in the shed, which probably weighs twice that of these bikes they're riding now. 46 kilometres to go to the finish. Of that, 17 kilometres are up the Col de Tourmalet. 13 kilometres are up to the finish at Lutz Ardidem.
This segment has been brought to you by Curel Lotion. 24 hours of freedom from dry skin.